Warning. Continued access to this file mandates the use of the Cogito protocol. All consenting parties will have 10 minutes to respond before automatic vote failure. A supermajority is required to proceed. Unauthorized individuals attempting to initiate a vote will be neutralized. There will be no additional warnings. Ping responses received 15/15. Quorum established. Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. Initiating ballot presentation. Full stop. 6/15. Votes received. 8/15. Votes received. 15/15. Votes received. Tallying. Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. Vote result. Success. You may proceed. Full stop. Full stop. Code name. A test of character. Cogito protocol confirmed. Access file SCP-001. Terminate session and log out. Item. SCP-001. Object Class. Keter. Level 5/01. Classified. Special Containment Procedures. Secure Area 00 has been established around the space believed to contain SCP-001 and classified Level 6/Cosmic Secret. The coordinates of Secure Area 00 are asymmetrically stored in the cranial implants of 15 selected members of Foundation leadership, considered from a pool of Ethics Committee members and site directors. Data contained within these implants may only be decrypted by a supermajority vote, 80%. Candidates are unaware of their status as voters until and unless a vote is called. In the event that the cipher becomes compromised or a cranial implant fails to ping, Cogito 8 will generate a new cryptographic protocol and distribute it to a new group of candidates. After the protocol has been updated, Cogito 8 will self-delete in order to purge the knowledge of Secure Area 00 and a new 8 will be cloned from the template and promoted. No access to Secure Area 00 is permitted at any time for any reason. All relevant site operation protocols, internal and external defenses, schematics, contingencies, and other related information have been expunged. Per these established constraints, under no circumstances are site directors or members of the Ethics Committee allowed access to any portion of this file unless a decryption vote is taking place. Description: SCP-001 is the absence of the O5 Council. In spite of all historical evidence detailing the activities of the O5 Council, the identities and histories of its members, and the existence of complex support structures directly and indirectly attached to the object, the O5 Council does not definitively exist. All contemporary records relating to the O5 Council, other than those contained in this file, are believed to be either fabricated by personnel under the influence of, or directly manifested by, SCP-001 itself. All data related to the orchestration of these events has been expunged in accordance with the containment procedures. Addendum 01. Conclusion of the Cohen administration. An epistolary chain was written by outgoing Administrator William Cohen during his final days in office circa 1965. The purpose of the letters was to assist in transferring esoteric knowledge to his successor, H.V. Oleander. Although Administrator Cohen was under the influence of SCP-001 at the time he created these documents, their contents have been deemed relevant to the containment procedures of this file. Should any additional records be discovered pertaining to this matter, personnel are instructed to immediately disengage from the material and contact internal security using Challenge Response Carthage. Dear Harold, trust is an important and scarce resource for those with power, and so in this moment I offer you my full vulnerability in the hope my words ring true. My untimely retirement has been well advertised throughout the Foundation, but the reasons why are at best a convenience. A tar clings to my mind, sticking to every neuron and slowing my every thought. In truth, I am unwell. The symptoms first began approximately 8 years ago. If only I could tell you the whole story, but this disease has started its feast on my freshest memories, leaving me only the distant past as a surety. I will try to piece things together for as best I can. It was late 1957 and the Soviet probe Sputnik 1 had been orbiting the Earth for a number of months. Although the probe had outlived its scientific usefulness, it was still in the upper atmosphere out of Foundation interest. Something was trying to communicate with it while drawing closer. By Christmas, the signal was detected hourly. By New Year's Eve, every 90 seconds. And on the 4th of January, 1958, the signal stopped and the unidentified object arrived. Site 00 invited guests so rarely that I was simply stunned when they summoned me to the war room. We worked tirelessly throughout the night until the situation finally changed. A single, brief burst of gamma radiation as Sputnik stopped reporting telemetry and we saw its orbit begin to rapidly decay. Almost all at once the Council started picking up their phones and making calls. They were scrambling jets. They were alerting air defense forces. They were waking up heads of state. There was no hostility in the actions of either the probe or its passenger. No new weapon signatures, no threatening maneuvers. Why would they risk an international incident by shooting down the first ever space probe? Why give in to fear? Why destroy a piece of world history on the cusp of discovery? They were working each other into a frenzy, shouting louder and louder, until logic was dethroned and I could only sit with my head in my hands. For the first time I truly understood how alone I had let myself become. The few friends and trusted advisors I had left at this point in my career were nowhere to be found. Whether I was ready or not, the final decision was brought before me, to shoot down the probe or to let it land. People crowded all around and glared down at me, asking me, telling me, to give the order. Were they daring me, with their heat and pressure, to become something more? Would that I could tell you of my clarity, my brilliance. But instead, I gave in to my fear, my cowardice, my loneliness. I told them to do what they thought was best. I let them shoot it down. And now what credibility do I have left to disagree with them? I am but a mouthpiece. A sad, old puppet tangled up and caught in the very strings used to make him dance. Tomorrow, my last official act will be going to Site 00 to hand in my credentials. It is my solemn hope that by passing the torch along to you now, before it must be pried from my senile hands, that you will be able to steel yourself against the many difficult tests I am sure you will face. Just as I have shown you vulnerability here in the hopes I might gain your trust, please consider asking the same from those who would insist you trust them. Sincerely yours. Former Administrator William Cohen. Addendum 02. Recovered documentation. The following documents are attributable to the O5 Council in the years following the conclusion of the incident described in Addendum 01. While the O5 Council has frequently endorsed, ratified, or co-authored documentation, there is no record of the Council releasing a statement or taking an action autonomously prior to these memorandum. Should any additional records be discovered pertaining to this matter, personnel are instructed to cease reading these records and contact internal security using Challenge Response Troy. Memorandum, the 20th of March 1958. From O5 Council, et al. To Leadership Committee. Purpose: Memorandum of Understanding. Foundation. The individual you call your administrator has proven insufficient. We solicit you to make your preparations and nominate another. Proposal. The right-hand path awaits us. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Approved. Memorandum the 11th of June 1962. From O5 Council, et al. To Leadership Committee. Purpose. Memorandum of Understanding. Foundation. A life lived in service of the greater good is invalidated if the death does not also serve. Proposal. A church is a hospital for sinners. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Approved. Memorandum the 11th of November 1965. From O5 Council, et al. To staff all. Purpose. Farewell and thank you. Colleagues. Please join us in remembering the life and career of Administrator William Cohen. The only constant is change. Because of this, the erosion of his skills, abilities, knowledge, and confidence was inevitable. Employees stationed at Site 11 will be permitted 15 minutes for consumption of baked goods and general fraternization to commemorate your former administrator's career. Proposal. They shall beat their swords to plowshares. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Approved. Addendum 03. Conclusion of the Oleander administration. An epistolary chain was written by outgoing Administrator H.V. Oleander during his final days in office circa 1988. The purpose of the letters was to assist in transferring esoteric knowledge to his successor, Natalia Ellingbrook. The contents of these letters have been deemed relevant to the containment procedures of this file. Should any additional records be discovered pertaining to this matter, personnel are instructed to immediately disengage from the material and contact internal security using Challenge Response Carthage. Natalia. When the end of my tenure came into focus and your succession was announced, I felt a clear sense of what little armor I had left being stripped from me. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and I was hopeful that my personal outlook would grow brighter, but it has not. I used to have such an ego. This job, this life, and the burdens that surround it crush and squeeze you until all you have left is what they force you to keep. My mind and my soul feel as if they've been contorted into the shape of someone I no longer recognize. My predecessor, may he rest in peace, described his final years as if he were trapped behind smoky glass and made to watch a foggy world pass him by. Like some sort of I, too, feel imprisoned, but I realize that it was never a looking glass. It is a mirror. It was November of '85. An unusually powerful nor'easter had ravaged New England and caused serious complications to Site 31's power grid. I won't belabor the specifics as you'll have access to the full documents, but the result was a multi-stage containment breach where we lost track of an info war. There was plenty of blame to go around in how this was handled, but these concerns soon drifted into the background. We did not detect the object again until late March of '86, this time leaching from a government facility in Warsaw, Poland. Given my previous failure in allowing this entity to escape, I personally organized the mission with the hopes this could be quickly put to bed. Within a matter of days, teams were in place and the chase was on. We had the entity and its host cornered, but the O5 Council intervened in the interests of international sensitivity. I'll never know, but I suspect their interference would have found an equally frustrating form if I have acted otherwise. We called a joint session in the war room in order to monitor what I believed to be the final stages of the hunt, although the Council did not share my enthusiasm. Sparing you the specifics, the Council's decision to engage local and international governments in Poland proved to be a fatal error. The entity went to ground in a new, unwitting host before we could capture it. The trail stayed warm and we were ultimately led into Soviet territory, Pripyat, Ukraine. The Council and I met regularly over the next few weeks as we attempted to isolate the entity. Their heavy-handed oversight dogging my every command, they managed to blunt the instincts of our field agents so completely that the trail gradually became colder and colder. I pushed back against the Council and our meetings became quite intense. The O5s were pragmatic to the nth degree if not outright fearful, unable to see past the risk of war. While I must admit we were playing with fire, I had felt every bit in command of the situation before their interference. If I could have only found a way to bring them over to my side, to get them working with me, maybe things would have been different. But for what they were demanding of me, this was an impossibility. The task force was all wrong, no overtures had been made to the Soviet government, support was too far away, the risk assessment of the entity was unreliable, and 1,000 other excuses they waved in my face. I was chosen knowing I would have to manage situations of this magnitude, but the brink of a nuclear disaster? How could I put that decision on anyone else but myself? 6 hours in the situation room. Then 12. Then 24. Then 48. Phone calls from field commanders asking for orders. Maintain, was all I could come up with while I weighed our options and the Council kept inventing new lines of thought to debate. What was I to do? How could I even think? To let my decision be governed by calculated probability, or to trust my gut with the fate of the free world on the line? During the middle of the night on the 26th of April, 1986, we all paid the price for my indecision. I've had almost 2 years to reconsider the sequence of events that led to that disaster. 2 years of being raked through the coals for everything I did and said, or failed to do or say. Much more than any other mission in my long and storied career, this one weighs the most heavily. And as the final insult, we still do not have the entity recontained. By the time you receive this message I will have had my final day as administrator. My last official act will be an appearance at Site 00 before the O5 Council. I will hand them my typed and signed resignation, and my most heartfelt and sincere apology for what my collapse has cost both the Foundation and the world at large. I had always found it very easy to work with the Council when the stakes were low and nothing of any major consequence was on the line. In truth I had never felt as if I might have needed them before that night, but in my solemn reflection I find myself wondering if they ever truly felt they needed me until that night either. Do better. Please. Best wishes. Harold Vincent Oleander. Former Administrator. Addendum 04. Post-incident report. The following document was filed by the O5 Council and classified Level 1 in the wake of the events outlined in Addendum 03. Although the document was eventually reclassified under access controls, it was read by a considerable number of Global Foundation staff with SIPNet access. The consequences of this breach of information security are documented elsewhere, but can be summarized as extensive. After Action Report, the 28th of April 1986. Casualty Assessment. This template is to announce an after action or corrective action casualty report for either declared or undeclared events, training, coordinated exercises, or other occasions as necessary. Personnel wishing to utilize this form acknowledge that the previous report is either inaccurate or incomplete and data herein supersedes the other documentation. Name of agency. Overwatch Command. Type of agency. Command Unit Leadership Unit. Completed by O5 Council, et al. Date report completed. 12th of November, 1988. Description of incident. A chain of events that began with a containment breach at Site 31 has caused a trail of political turmoil throughout much of Eastern Europe, and culminated in a nuclear disaster with potentially centuries-long environmental and geopolitical consequences. As a result of these events, substantial alterations to existing treaties of cooperation and treaties of financial obligations have been significantly increased, likely permanently. Description of ideal response. Commitment to a greater purpose. Description of actual response. The obsession of the individual resulted in the immediate deaths of 19 Foundation agents and is likely to result in the deaths of more than 30,000 humans as a direct, causal link to this nuclear disaster. Elements of successful response. Hesitation and isolation were incidentally beneficial in avoiding the commitment of additional resources, which would have also been casualties. Elements for immediate improvement. We recommend that the healing process commence by first assigning blame. The collective good would be served by purging liability. Other. This matter has been forwarded to the Ethics Committee. Proposal. We would have helped. Anyone would have helped. Status. Why deny it? Addendum 05. Conclusion of the Ellingbrook administration. An epistolary chain was written by outgoing Administrator Natalia Ellingbrook during her final days in office circa 2005. The purpose of the letters was to assist in transferring esoteric knowledge to her successor, Michelle Wilkes. The contents of these letters have been deemed relevant to the containment procedures of this file. Should any additional records be discovered pertaining to this matter, no atypical security measures are necessary. Dear Michelle, as you've likely surmised from our few meetings, I walked with a pronounced limp and favor my left leg. How I came to be like this isn't especially interesting, but what it did to me might be of interest to a person in your position. Any man or woman changes when they are exposed to pain. Simply put, it has to go somewhere. If you hold it all within yourself, it may stay contained, but it will surely destroy you when you've had your fill. It festers in all the spaces you let it occupy, warping and scarring what used to be healthy, happy tissue sat beneath. Some people have hobbies, but me? I've always just had my work. I've been ringside for so much pain in my time with the Foundation. My predecessor left me a note, much like I am leaving you in my final days, and in it he warned me of the tremendous duty and guilt he mantled in order to do his job. Although the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune stung him quite keenly, I assure you I have suffered every bit his equal. The breach at the Olympics in 1994. Losing control of Site 248 in 1996. Botched facility transfer of Hong Kong in 1997. Bombings in Bali in 2002. The dispute with Oria in the Congo in 2003. The GOC ultimatum in 2004. I have stepped on a lot of people to get where I am. Yes, of course I did so in the name of the Foundation's greater mission, but I was motivated even more intensely by my own advancement. I needed no one else to get to the top, but my keen awareness of the needs of others, my ability to read a room, was the difference that set me above the other candidates. Perhaps they thought that I could learn to be different when there was nowhere higher on the mountain to climb. Nowhere else to look but down at the cold, tired, dirty faces of the people I walked over to reach this summit. A noble thought, but it depends solely on my own capacity to nurture the fruit of that faith. I fear I am barren. Although I have weathered much, my tenure ends not with the sort of precipitating bang that ousted Oleander, but rather the quiet whimper of stepping away from a battle I no longer wish to fight. I am tired of the council calling a meeting on every decision I try to make, and I am tired of calling one on every decision they try to make without me. I guess that reasoning is one last tribute to the selfish life I have led. My ideal way to say goodbye would have been to simply stop coming in. My desk would have sat empty, emails unread, until one day a courier showed up with my keys and badge. But even here, at the end of my career, the O5 Council insists on refusing to let me be myself. So tomorrow I will play the part of a dutiful officer resigning her post and walk away from Site 00 with my head held high and those overbearing bastards in the rear view mirror. I pray that your head will never be so bowed as mine has. Best wishes. Natalia Ellingbrook. Addendum 06. Project Briefing. The following project proposal was developed by various project teams at Sites 21, -78, and -107 with oversight and project management from newly appointed Administrator Michelle Wilkes. The project requirements were ratified by the Overwatch Command Committee on Infrastructure and construction began in earnest shortly thereafter. Project Tethys. Project Briefing. Level 5 Classified. Forward. According to current timetables, the Three Gorges Dam project at the Yangtze River should pass final testing and come online in late 2009. Out of an abundance of caution, it is critical that initial containment procedures for Entity 2005 CET-011 be fully implemented prior to the completion of this facility. The sheer breadth of engineering required to retrofit the parts of the dam that have already been completed, as well as to build Secure Area 248, surpasses any project previously attempted by the Foundation in both scope and monetary commitment. Thanks to the tireless efforts of engineering teams from our CN, JPN, RUS, and C facilities, a practical and aggressive solution is available to us before the threat becomes uncontrollable. I would also like to thank the Foundation Geopolitical Initiative for their expert navigation of regional political sensitivities in sourcing these materials so quickly. And I would finally like to thank the various environmental impact teams which will allow us to enact our solution without compromising the efficacy of the Three Gorges project. Although the difficult work of implementing this vision still lies before us, I am proud to say that the response to this emergent need has only served to validate the high standards we must hold ourselves to in order to protect the future. As the saying goes, success has many parents. Thank you. M. Wilkes. Administrator. Primary objective. Cooperate with local and regional governments in order to modify the Three Gorges Dam facility. The purpose of these modifications is to enact containment protocols on Entity 2005 CET-011 without significant impact to the integrity of the dam. Specific project requirements developed by engineering teams. All requirements are mandatory. Secondary objectives. Further analysis of Entity 2005 CET-011 in order to achieve proper classification. Post hoc modifications to project facility in order to comply with secondary determinations. Method. Operational information redacted for brevity. Further information available in named project folder. Addendum 07. Memorandum of Understanding. The following epistolary chain is an exchange between Administrator Wilkes and SCP-001 which began shortly after the presentation of the project proposed in Addendum 06. This chain of communication is understood to be complete and no autonomous communication originating from the 05 Council has occurred since the conclusion of this documentation. From 05 Council to Administrator Wilkes. Administrator. We cannot approve your project proposal and we deny our signatory at this time. We share your pragmatism that greater challenges await this ambitious task. Please report for a briefing on Tuesday at 1900 hours and we will bring you up to speed on the matters at hand. We are worried but believe you capable, for now. We can help. Formally. 05 Council. From Administrator Wilkes to 05 Council. Council. Thank you for your expeditious response to this important project. While I, of course, would hear out any concerns you might have about the viability of this project, I will need you to state them in more tangible terms so we can have a productive discussion. Please have a bulleted list of concerns you intend to cover sent to my office as soon as possible so we can make the most efficient use of our time. If necessary, we can kick the meeting out to early next week if you need time to gather this list. We need to move on this project quickly. Sincerely, Administrator Wilkes. From those who know better. To Administrator Wilkes. Administrator. We have been doing this for a long time and have a great deal of context-sensitive information we can give you. No matter our bullet points and memorandum, there will be matters for which you are unprepared. We will talk. We do not approve your project. We want to help. We know you need it. We can give it. We will see you on Tuesday. Proposal. Understanding is a process. We can guide. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Accept. From Administrator Wilkes. To O5 Council. Council. I am certainly willing to work with you to get this approved, but I need to do so from a position of preparedness and strength. Please send those materials immediately. I'm not sure if this was the nature of your relationship with my predecessor, but I'd like for us to do each other the favor of letting our interactions stand on their own. Thanks. Administrator Wilkes. From the Council. To Administrator XX. Administrator. We know how important it is to get off on the right foot. Although this body respects you and the autonomy which you command, we have also seen many come and go. You were chosen from your peers, but they have chosen many others in the past. We remain unconvinced. Before you, Ellingbrook, who spent her whole life pushing others aside so she could lead. She left all others behind. Trees with no roots do not hold to the ground. Before her, Oleander, who wanted so much to be seen as your hero in white. He could no longer live with himself once his clothes were stained, but the sin does not define the sin. Before him, Cohen, who wanted nothing more than to be the one who made the decisions. He collapsed in on himself when there was no easy victory. No man is an island. And a dozen more whose names we have subrogated. You need us. You are not enough. Proposal. Seeing is believing. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Acknowledge. From Administrator Wilkes. To O5 Council. Council. Your approach is both personally insulting and professionally unacceptable. I have transitioned countless duties from my predecessor. Read the notes and meeting minutes of a dozen boards. Assess the strengths and weaknesses of 24 business units and departments. And otherwise prepared myself for these challenges for the better part of 2 years. I was nominated by a search committee, vetted in 4 different and highly invasive stages of interview, and my election was ratified not only by my predecessor and a great many of my peers, but by the O5 Council as well. Furthermore, this proposal was formulated by a committee of a dozen of our most astute and clever containment specialists who have found successful means of containing entities every bit as dangerous as this one, and in far less ideal circumstances. The containment recommendations were then translated into plans and schematics by scores of engineers who all have multiple master's degrees in their respective fields, with 20+ years of experience each, and countless other intangible qualifications. After all of that, half a dozen departments of equally capable personnel worked tirelessly to find the money, the supplies, the personnel necessary to carry out this vision, and then ship them all to China so we can begin. What could you possibly have to say to me in person that they have not already covered? I trust them, and I wish you would too. I await your answer. Administrator Wilkes. From the Council. To Administrator Nascent. Administrator. Your distinctiveness did not arise from the ether. You are a synthesis of available materials and experiences. If needed, another could be synthesized. We are needed. We are necessary. We synthesize. You are not. You cannot. Become we or become they. The choice is yours. Proposal. Report to Site 00 for new employee orientation. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Safe. Need. From Administrator Wilkes. To 05 Council. Council. Thanks for clarifying. I think that I understand now. Administrator Wilkes. From your peers. To Wilkes. Admin. We want what's best for us. Proposal. Grab the last olive branch. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Now. From Administrator Wilkes. To 05 Council. Council. Are we meeting Tuesday or not? This is the last time I am going to say this. Send me a summary of your concerns so I can talk with our engineers and containment specialists, or stop wasting my time. Administrator Wilkes. From the only friend you have. To Atlas. Shelley. Proposal. You are ready? Votes for. None. Votes against. All. Status. You need us. From Administrator Wilkes. To 05 Council. Council. No. You cast your shadow over the future with your threats and intimidation, certain we would be nothing without you, but I am forced to wonder who or what would you be without us? I stand with the countless thousands that have died for our mission, the people that have engineered our solutions, the people that will build them, and the people that will risk their lives in order to carry out these procedures in the hope our mission might one day be complete. Without them, I know I would be nothing. We are willing to take our chances without you. I am going to offer you the same choice you gave me. Become we or become they. Consider carefully. Administrator Wilkes. There is a gap of several days without any recorded further correspondence. From the Administrator. To Overwatch Command, Ethics Committee, Site Leadership. Colleagues. I was told this position would challenge me with the hardest decisions I have ever had to make from the very beginning. And that the spirit and integrity with which I face these first challenges would set the tone for what is to come for not only myself, but the entirety of the Foundation. We may either rise to meet the occasion, or we may run from what duty might demand and retreat within procedures, votes, and protocols to hide from accountability. I choose the former. By the authority granted to me in the Charter for the Foundation, I hereby suspend the appointment of the 05 Council, effective immediately, until such time as it once again proves necessary. Best wishes. Michelle Wilkes. Administrator. From 05 Council. To Administrator Michelle Wilkes. Administrator. Proposal. You are ready. Votes for. All. Votes against. None. Status. Approved. Addendum 08. For your eyes only. Attention Administrator, the following epistolary has been unlocked and appended to this document following successful verification of your identity and the execution of the Cogito Protocol. Instructions for the continued amendment of this document are being forwarded to your encrypted mail channel at this time. The 8 will assist you with any further questions. From Michelle Wilkes, Administrator. To my duly designated successor. Colleague. If you are reading this, the reality of my untimely and unplanned demise has come to pass. This is a possibility that any member of the Foundation should prepare to face if they take their duty seriously, and after nearly 20 years at the helm I have most certainly made my peace with the idea. But before they install your placard on the door, I have one solemn duty that remains to be carried out, to prepare you for what lies ahead. You have no doubt been inundated with files, briefings, phone calls, and so much more in the days since your appointment, but in that chaos what is truly important can easily be pushed into the background. Consider now, before fate takes away the luxury of time, what type of person, co-worker, and leader you want to be. Each and every one of the administrators before me was challenged in terms both great and small during their tenures, and I was no exception to this pattern. The office you occupy is not about the power and influence you now command. Nor is it even about the unfathomable responsibility you must now shepherd. It is instead about the character, integrity, and vision with which you meet the test of leadership and, should you prove worthy, surmount it. You and the people you will lead must be asked to undertake tasks no person should ever be asked to carry out. Yet duty and the safety of all mankind demand that you make this sacrifice. For them. For each other. If your resolve should ever falter, know that everyone you led stands with you. We are ready to follow you into the blackest night if you let us believe in the promise of dawn. But should your resolve ever break, the council awaits. They will invite you to Site 00 if you ask. You need only surrender. Best wishes. M. Wilkes. Former Administrator.